All right, well, Republican lawmakers are now blasting the Obama administration for announcing that they will delay the release of the federal budget. The move comes as today marks 1,000 days since the Democratic-controlled Senate has passed a budget. 1,000 days with absolutely no budget. That's one of their utmost responsibilities as legislators. Joined now by Wyoming Senator John Barrasso, is the chairman of the Senate Republican Policy Committee. Senator, good morning. Good to have you here today.
Good to be with you, Martha. Thank you.
So this is the third time that the administration has postponed the release of their budget. What's going on?
Well, I think that the Democrats don't want the American people to see just how reckless and irresponsible the spending continues to be. The president, by law, has to submit a budget the beginning of February, and then both houses of Congress have to, by law, by April 15th, pass a budget. It's now been 1,000 days since the Democrat-controlled Senate under Harry Reid has actually passed a budget. Last year, the president put out a budget. It was felt to be a budget that wasn't very serious, and it failed 0 to 97. Not even one Democrat voted for the president's budget.
Yeah, that was a huge failure, and they may be trying to avoid that this time around as we wait for them to release the budget. Now, he's going to have $1.2 trillion in cuts because of the failure of the super committee. That was the deal. What do you think we're going to see in those cuts when we do get this budget?
Well, I want to see what the budget is, and the president ought to talk about that tonight in the State of the Union. He has a responsibility to own up to the American people in terms of the direction and the spending. But just since we started talking, this country has borrowed another $2 million. We're going to borrow $4 billion today, a lot of it from China. That's just not right. We need a budget. Families have a budget. The states have a budget. In the state of Wyoming, we balance our budget every year. Families do that. It is time for America to do what families all across the country do, and it falls on the Democrats in Congress and Harry Reid to pass a budget. The House passed a budget last year under Congressman Paul Ryan, and it really did have a directional shift in terms of focusing on ways to get our fiscal house in order. The Democrats have been irresponsible.
We have a little piece of sound of John Boehner in terms of what he expects tonight. Let's listen to that.
The president's been in total campaign mode since Labor Day. And since the campaign apparently wrote the speech, I expect we'll hear a campaign speech.
So, I mean, the president is going to blame Republicans. He has in the past for not being able to come up with, a budget that was passable by Democrats in the Senate. That's what they'll say.
Well, the people all across the country believe that this country's heading in the wrong direction and the president has been ineffective. And you look at what the president's promised over the last several State of the Unions. He said, pass this health care bill and it will lower the deficit. We know that not to be true. He said, pass this and we'll get all of these people back to work. We now know we have over 1.5 million more people out of work now than when he became president. So on point after point, what the president's rhetoric is very different from the reality of what the American people have seen, which is why so many people are very disappointed with this president. He inherited a bad situation, and he made it worse.
Well, Senator, earlier, Bill was speaking to Dan Pfeiffer, the communications head in the White House, and he basically blamed it on Republicans. He said, we hope that Republicans and Democrats can come together. We hope that it won't be the sort of sole mission of Republicans to see that the president is not reelected by blocking any progress, that both sides need to come together and work for the American people and get something done and not waste another year.
Well, I'm on the conference committee dealing with the extending of the tax relief for hardworking Americans. We're going to be meeting in the next 20 minutes. I want to find solutions. I want to get people back to work. But when the president stands in the way of the Keystone XL pipeline, energy security, which is part of our national security, bringing that energy to the United States, jobs to America, at the same time selling, the Canadian people are saying, if you don't want it, we're going to sell this oil to China. I think it was an absolutely raw political move by the president in the face of what our economy needs. He made that decision to appease a number of his extreme supporters who really do not have, I believe, the best interest of the American workers getting people back to work in mind.
All right, we'll see what we hear tonight. Senator John Barrasso, always good to talk to you. Thanks for being here.
Thank you, Martha.